Hello. Good morning. How are you today, students? I hope you guys are having a good time. So, we are not able to come to school today, but we'll have school at home. School never stops except there is a holiday. So, still today we'll be having math. Yesterday we started learning about fractions. It's a very interesting topic, but you will have to focus a lot. If you focus, then you will be able to get everything right. Make sure you don't miss any step. Like I said to you in the class, if you miss a step, notify the teacher immediately, because if you miss one step, you might find everything totally wrong. Okay, so pay attention, sit and focus. Get all you need, your books, anything and everything that you need. Basically, today we'll be needing our learner's book, and we'll be looking at pages number 92 again and 93 today. Are you ready? All right, let's start the lesson. So let's have a quick review on what we learned last. Remember, we talked about fractions yesterday. Let's remember the things we learned. Fraction is a part of a whole. Is that true or false? A fraction is a part of a whole number or a whole object or of something that is a whole. Is that true or false? All right, good job. That's true. A fraction is a part of a whole. Remember when we talked about the pizza? When we cut into different numbers, or we divide it into different numbers, then it has become a fraction. But first it was a whole. How many halves are in 5½? Remember, we did so much of this yesterday. How many halves are in 5½? I said to you that if you find it very difficult, all you need to do is draw 5 circles and a half of the circle. To make half of the circle, all we need to do is divide it to 2. Then in one circle we have how many halves? 2 halves. Put a line in between. We have 1/2 on this side, 1/2 on this side. The same thing goes for this. 1/2 on this side, another half on this side. That makes 4. Same thing goes for this. 1/2 on this side, another half on this side. That makes 6. For this, 1/2 on this side, another half on this side. That makes 8. So far we have 8 halves in 4. Let's see the fifth one. 1/2 here, another half here. That makes 10. 10 halves. But remember, we have one extra half left. That makes how many? 11. Or, just as we said, the easiest way to make this or work this out, yesterday in the class we said, multiply your denominator, 2, by your whole number. 2 times 5, 10. 10 plus 1, 11. So that's 11 halves are in 5½. And in another way, you can just add 5 together. Since you're talking about halves, halves means 2. So 5 plus 5, just double it. 5 plus 5 is 10. Half plus half is 1. 10 plus 1, 11. Okay, so it's still all the same. Now let's take a look at this. Which is bigger, 1/8 or 1/4? Darine, you remember this? Half of half is a quarter, and half of a quarter is 1/8, which means 1/4 is bigger than 1/8. Then, just like a question we did in the class yesterday, if we share 5 pairs between 2 people, how many pairs will each person get? Now let's assume that these are the 5 pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we have 2 people. So that means, just a moment please. We're taking this one out. This is not part of it, so just count it out. These are the 5 pairs. Remember, we're doing question 4. We're just using this one for the illustration. We're just using these blue circles for the illustration. So 2 people get one person gets 2, the second person also gets 2. So what's the remainder? We have 1 pair left. What do we do to this 1 pair? We have to divide it into 2 halves. So one person gets 1 half, the other person gets 1 half. So each of them is going to have how many? 2 and half. Okay, that's just like our remainders. 5 divided by 2, it's 2, remainder 1. But you still have to divide that 1 apple between the 2. So you're going to have half and then half, since we're talking about fractions. So now let's see this video to make us to understand halves, quarters, and eighths the more. Okay, just sit tight and see the video. Okay, so it's still fraction trios, and remember that fractions are numbers too. It's just that they are not whole numbers, or they may not be whole numbers, but they are numbers too. Let's go on ahead. Our objective, just as it was yesterday, now we recognize what a simple mixed fraction is, a number that has a whole number and a fraction together. Now we know that. And then we relate fractions to divisions, just like we did the other time in the warm-up questions. It said how many halves are in 5½. What did we do? We divided 5 by 2, or 2 by 5. 5 divided by 2. That was how we got the answer. Remember, we said initially that we'll need the knowledge of our divisions and multiplications in our fractions as well. And the third thing is to find halves, quarters, thirds using the number line. The words that we have to learn are, just as it was yesterday, fraction. Can you say that? Fraction. That's what we've been learning about since yesterday. It's a part of a whole. Half. When you divide one thing into 2 equal parts, then you have 1/2 on this side and 1/2 on the other side. Quarter. When you divide that half into 2 again, that's called quarter. And of course, remember yesterday we said mixed number, a whole number and a fraction together. So yesterday we talked about the pizzas, and we said about the pizza in the first picture that it's not been cut yet, so it's a whole. We can't call it a fraction. But when do we have a fraction? The moment we cut something into some equal parts, then it becomes a fraction. So let's identify the fractions we have here. This is a fraction. In fact, one portion of the pizza has been eaten up. This is another fraction. 2 portions of the pizza has been eaten up. We only have 1/3 left. 2/3 has been eaten. Remember, how many portions are there altogether? 3. So that means our denominator will be thirds. Thirds. Okay? So we have 1/3 portion of pizza left. 2/3 portion has been eaten. This is still 3/3. Remember we said it's 3/3, 3 out of 3. 3 divided by 3 is what? Any number divided by itself is 1. So it means we still have the whole all together. For this one portion of the pizza has been eaten out of 3. So we have 1 out of 3 that has been eaten. So what's the portion that has not been eaten yet? 2. 2 out of what? Out of 3. Great job. We also did this illustration in the class yesterday where we talked about the girls and boys, all the students in the class. We divide the class into 2. Half number of girls and half number of boys. Now, how many halves do we have here? 2 halves. 1/2 is the girls, the second half is the boys. But if we add the girls and the boys together, we'll have our full class back. Okay, so this means that half plus half is what? Is one full whole. Great. Now let's go on ahead just to revise again on what we did yesterday. A quarter. What's a quarter? Darren, remember now? A quarter is half of half. Remember this was half before. The girls were the full left side was the girls and the full right side was the boys. But now we've divided them into two again. So each section now will be 1/4. 1/4, that's a quarter each. Now we have a quarter of girls on this side, a quarter of girls on this side, a quarter of boys on this side, and a quarter of boys on this side. So all together, the whole class is made. When we divide the class into 4, each of the portions or each of the groups will be 1/4 of the class. Okay? And let's talk now about A. Now we know that half of a quarter is A. Look at this is a quarter. This full line, just watch my pointer, is a quarter, but we split it into 2 again. So now that we split it into 2, each portion will now be 1/8. Okay, we did the same for all. If you count all the portions or all the groups, you see that we have 8 equal groups, right? So that's 1/8. Don't forget, half of a whole is half. Half of a whole is half. Half of half is quarter. And half of quarter is 1/8. But what about half plus quarter? You should remember that, right? Half plus quarter. That means quarter plus quarter plus quarter. That's going to be what? 3/4. Half plus a quarter is 3/4. How many more to make one whole? We have just 1/4 left to make one whole. All right, don't worry if you don't understand that. We'll still do some illustrations for you to understand better, okay? Now the mixed numbers we talked about, remember? Don't forget the homework I gave you. That's for you to be able to practice from your notebooks. This is not being touched at all. It's completely covered. It's all pink, okay? So it means it's a whole, one whole. Then one portion has been eaten. What is the portion that has not been eaten yet? 3. That's 3 out of 4 is remaining. So that, how do we express this as a mixed number? 1, 3 out of 4. What about this? Look at this, for example. It's fully covered. 1. This is another one fully covered. 2. 2 fully covered. And then this is the fraction. 2 eaten, 1 left. So all we have left is 1 out of what? 3. So here we have 2 out of 3, just as we explained yesterday. I know you know this already. Now, remember that we also tried to find how many halves we have between 0 and 6 on the number line. In only one number, yeah, there are 2 halves. In one whole, there are 2 halves. So between 0 and 1, 2 halves. Between 1 and 2, 2 halves, making 4. Between 2 and 3, 2 halves, that makes 6. Between 3 and 4, 2 halves, that makes 8. Between 4 and 5, 2 halves, that makes 10. And between 5 and 6, another 2 halves, that makes 12. And remember we said we're talking about halves. It's in 2 portions. The simple thing we can do here is just multiply 6 times 2, since we're talking about halves and it's 2 portions. So 2 portions each on one number. 1 has 2 halves, 2 has 2 halves, 3 has 3 halves. If we add it all together, it will be 12. So there are 12 halves in 6. Look at this. The first one is half. Next one is 1. 1 and a half, 2. 2 and a half, 3. 3 and a half, 4. If you count all these numbers, we're going to have 12 numbers. Okay? So 12 numbers make, or 12 halves rather, are between 0 and 6. And remember that a quarter is half of half. A quarter is what? Half of half. Let's try to make a circle for you to see that. This is, sorry, the circle might not be so smooth, but we're just going to make use of it that way. Here it is. See? This is a circle, and we divide it into 2 equal parts. Then we have 2 halves. We have 1 half here and another half here. Okay? A quarter is half of half. So how do we get a quarter now? Great job, Darren. Cut this into 2. Then that's going to be a quarter. So let's make quarters now. How many quarters do we now have here? Now we have 4 quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. What does the question say? It says, remember that a quarter is half of half. Of course, that's it. Now try to find out how many quarters in 2 and a half. So let's assume this is just only one whole now. How many quarters do we have? 4. Let's make the next one. We're going to 2 and a half. That's for 1. This is for 2. And let's divide 2, 4 again. I've told you can always draw if you find it difficult to make the calculations. This represents 1. The first circle here represents 1, 2. Now let's draw half. There's one more half we need to draw. It's not going to be a full circle, you know. So it's only going to be half. Sorry, it's not so smooth, but then we'll just need to make use of it like that. Okay, that's the half. Now, can we divide this half again into quarter? Of course. So let's divide it into quarters since we're looking for how many quarters in 2 and a half. So remember, this is 1, 2, half. So this is our 2 and a half. We're representing it with a diagram. So let's count the quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alternatively, what we can do is multiply, just like we said in the class yesterday, our denominator 2 times 2, 5. Okay? Then 5 plus 1. 2 times 2, 4. 4 plus 1, 5. 5 halves in 2 and a half. But we need to know quarters. Since we know quarters is going to be 2 times bigger, just multiply your answer here by 2. So that's 5 times 2 will be 10. Now let's see fractions in between numbers. Of course, we've done that before. How many halves in 3 and a half? Let's use the diagram like we did yesterday. This is 1, 2, 3, and we make the half. Then cut everything into half. 1, 2, 3. This is already a half. How many halves do we have? 7. Alternatively, we can do 2 times 3, 7. 2 times 3, 6. And 6 plus 1, 7. So that just gives us the straight answer. But if you want to know the quarters, what do? Just double this answer. 7 times 2, 14. Or split this through at the center again and count how many quarters. Definitely we are going to have 14. Okay, so there are 14 quarters in 3 and a half. All right, we were able to complete our learner's book yesterday, page 92. Let's go on over to page 93. Question 5 now. It says, how many quarters in 8 1/4, and how do you know? Remember that only in one number, let's represent it with this circle. We have how many quarters? 4 quarters in only one number. So if there are 4 quarters in only one number, how many quarters are we going to have in 8? The same numbers like this. If we have a circle like this divided into 4 8 times, that means 8 times 4 will be a simple way to solve that. 8 times 4 is 32. And from the question, we have 1 extra quarter here. Okay, so in 8 numbers, we have 32 quarters. Then we add the 1 extra quarter in the question, so that gives us 33 in total. 6 says, which one is bigger? 3 halves or 5 quarters? Which one is bigger? How do we know 3 halves? Good enough. How many quarters do we have here? 4 quarters. So let's make one more to have 5 quarters. To make 5 quarters, we just need just a tiny bit up there. Only one tiny bit like this. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, that's just 1/4 there. Okay, so we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. That's 5 quarters. Now, how much number is this? Remember that a full circle is 1. A full circle represents 1. So that means this is 1 and quarter. 5 quarters is equal to 1 and quarter. Now 3 halves. Let's find out what number 3 halves is. So, just like you know, our drawing will not be perfect. In a circle, we have 2 halves. Then in half of a circle, we have half. That's just 1 half, okay? So 2 halves and 1 half. 1 full circle represents 1 number, then half of a circle. So it means that 3 halves is the same as 1 1/2. So 1 1/2 and 1 1/4, which one is bigger? 1 is common to both of them. They have 1 and 1. But this has half and this has quarter. Which one is the bigger one? Is half bigger than quarter, or quarter is bigger than half? Good. Half is bigger than quarter. So that means that 3 halves is bigger than 1 1/4 or than 5 quarters. Okay? Now 7 says, which one is bigger? 3/4 or half plus 1/4? Do you remember that half means quarter plus quarter, right? Of course you remember that. Let's just divide this line into 2. Just this one. This was half before. It was half. But now it has been divided into 2. So quarter plus quarter is what? Half. That means I can say that instead of saying half plus 1/4, I can say quarter plus quarter plus quarter. Yes, because this half is the same as saying quarter plus quarter, right? Good. So I can say quarter plus quarter plus quarter. Now look at it here. Follow my pointer. Quarter plus quarter plus quarter. Let's add it together. What will our answer be? That's 1 plus 1 plus 1. 3. 3 out of 4. And look at what the question is telling us to compare. Which one is bigger? 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 4? So which one is bigger now? They are the same. Now let's go on to number 8. How many halves do we have in 7 1/2? We will just make our simple method therein. Let's just use our simple method here. 2 multiplied by 7. 14. 14 plus 1. 15. So what will our answer be? We have 15 halves in 7 1/2. Now number 9. It says how many quarters do we have in 7 1/2? Do you notice it's the same thing? This one is asking for how many halves in 7 1/2. This one is asking for how many quarters in 7 1/2. What do we then do? since this one is half and we have 15 in it, this one is asking for quarter. All we just do is 15 multiplied by 2, because in 1/2 we have 2 quarters, right? Good. So in 15 halves, we'll multiply by 2 to know how many quarters. So 15 multiplied by 2 is going to be 30. So our answer here is going to be 30 quarters. How many quarters in 7.5? Just double question 8, because there are 2 quarters in every half. So double this to have 30, or multiply 7 by 4. We're talking about 7. In one number there are 4 quarters. So 7 times 4 will be 28. Then the half we have left here, half has 2 quarters. 28 plus 2 is 30. Now question 10 and the last one. How many 3/4 do we have in 4.5? 4.5. Let's see if we can make a drawing for this. How many 3/4 in 4.5? Alright, so now let's use these 4 circles to represent our 4.5. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is half. So that's 4.5. We want to find out how many 3/4. And remember what we said. In each of these circles now we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So that's 3/4. Let's cancel it out. This is 1/4, 1/4, and the last is another 1/4. So now this is 3/4. 1, 2, 3. That's in 1. Let's go to the other one. I have another 1/4 here, another 1/4 here, and the last 1/4 is here. Do you notice that we have one excess left? Alright, that's for number 2. Let's go to the third one. 1/4. Sorry about that, it's not going to be perfect. This is another 1/4, and this is another 1/4. One extra left. Also 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4, and the last extra left. Now let's count how many 3/4 we have now. The 3/4 are the one that is colored in red all together. So in only one here, in only one circle, I have 1 3/4, I have 2 3/4, I have 3 3/4, and 4 3/4. So in 4 numbers I have 4 3/4. But notice something. There is an excess. I have some remainder. Look at this. I have 1/4 here, 1/4 left here, 1/4 left here, and another 1/4 left here. What does that mean? If I put all these 1/4 together, all of them, if I put them together, it will give me one full number, right? It will give me another one full whole. So what should I do? Let me just take 1/4 again, plus 1/4 plus 1/4 to make another additional 3/4. So how many do I have now? 4. Then I have this one left, right? Pardon me, I have 5 left. 1/4 from each of the circles. I have 4. So from my remainder, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. That's 3/4 also. That makes 5. Then from my half, and I add it to this one, that makes another 3/4. That's 6. So I have 6 3/4 in 4.5. 6 3/4 in 4.5. You can do more practice and sit down quietly, listen to the video or the voice again, or the explanations again, for you to be able to understand better. Sometimes you need to listen over and over again. Okay, so just try this out, listen to it again, and I'm sure that you're going to understand that if you don't understand already. All right, students, can't wait to be in school tomorrow. We'll have a review of all of this, and I know we'll understand it better. Thank you so much for your time. Take care of yourself, and see you in school tomorrow. Bye.